It's the Coastal Conservation Association of Louisiana. We've been here in Louisiana for 33 years, working to conserve and promote conservation for Louisiana's coast and our coastal resources. It's an organization of about 20,000 members here in Louisiana, conservation-minded people who care about the fisheries here in Louisiana, want to make sure that they are here for generations to come, and the fisheries that they enjoyed as kids are passed on to their kids and their grandkids into future generations.
Today is our semi-annual CCA convention. We hold it every other year, and it's a great time for everybody to come together and visit and talk issues.
Tell us a little bit about CCA for people that may not be familiar with it.
Well, we're a conservation group. We're one of the largest conservation groups in the state of Louisiana and in the nation. We're primarily here to protect the fish. We want to make sure that our local governments, state governments, and national governments protect fish and fish habitat so that our children and grandchildren will have a place to fish.
We've expanded our footprint into habitat renewal, building reefs, floating islands, education of youth. I mean, this organization is involved in thousands of things, infecting thousands of people all over the state of Louisiana.
I want to thank everybody for being here today. Welcome to the 2016 CCA Louisiana State Convention and Leadership Conference. What a great crowd we have here. We've got a big crowd scheduled to be with us the entire weekend. We're looking forward to a lot of fun. To kick us off with today's luncheon, I'd like to ask our state president, Mr. George Huey, to make a few welcome remarks. George.
Welcome everybody, and welcome to Baton Rouge. This has been the home of several conventions, and we always seem to have a great time here. You guys that are in the audience, you guys and gals, are really the backbone of this organization. And it's so important that we meet like this every other year because it builds camaraderie, and we share ideas, and we continue to grow as an organization. So I want to thank you for your participation and being involved in the meetings this afternoon and tomorrow. And hopefully we'll end up the weekend with a great cook-off. I know some people have some surprises for us and what they're cooking, and it'll be a great weekend. But thanks again. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the volunteerism from each and every one of you. Thank you.
Truly, truly an honor to be here. What an incredible celebration of conservation this whole weekend is. I cannot express to this group properly how inspiring all of you are. I get the chance to travel across the country speaking of all things marine conservation, and particularly all things CCA. And the unique, effective part of this group is the incredible legacy behind you. I mean, a tradition in conservation that isn't transcended, but more importantly, the pace you're setting for the future. Just to what Bob spoke to a moment ago, you all are setting the pace for the country of what can be done in valuing fisheries, in valuing fishermen. So you're making the difference. You've made the difference, and you're going to continue to make the difference. You are what is inspiring here. So in this celebration, I think one of the greatest things we can all embrace is this group right here. So thank all of you.
Thank you all so much for having me here today, and thank you for your support from around the state to help me have this great job. There's not a better job anywhere than to promote this great state. And much like the people that run the state parks, the museums, all the tourists around the state that promote our great state, they have so much love and passion for what they do, whatever corner of the state it's in. And it's much like you have for this industry, protecting it, whether it be in Baton Rouge or Washington. You've always stepped up to the plate and fought the fights. And I'm so proud to be a lifetime member, to always be involved. And had I been drinking last year at the CCA in Plaquemines Parish, we'd have done a lot better. Because, you know, one year I went home with these big reels, 7 of them, and my wife says, you know, you don't have a deep sea fishing boat. What the hell are you going to do with those things? But I'm just very proud. There's not a group I'd rather speak with. You know, we're going to have our challenges in Baton Rouge, and we're going to have to pull together and work as a team. And I'm very proud of the relationship that I have with the new governor. You see, right after the election, we went to lunch. And I said, Governor, we're not always going to agree on everything, but I want to tell you, we're going to work together as a team for the next 4 years. I will not be out there criticizing you. I want to help you be successful. And he reached across the table and said, Billy, I want you to be involved in coastal restoration because I know that you're passionate about it, economic development, anything else where you can make a difference in the state. And I really appreciate his trust and belief in me because it's going to be important in these troubling times that we work as a team and put Louisiana first. And it's going to take a lot of help from a lot of people. I made a commitment around the state that we were going to do more to promote the great fishing we have in Louisiana on a state and internationally. Next year, we have an opportunity with the largest tourist convention in the world, tourist leaders from all over the world in New Orleans. We've got to make sure that promoting all the great outdoors we have in Louisiana is a part of that convention. You know, a little while ago, I won't point you out because I don't want to embarrass you, but someone came up to me and said, you know, Billy, I called the New Orleans Convention Bureau and I said, look, I'm going to be in town for a convention and I got a couple extra days. I want to come in early and I want to go fishing, maybe stay at a fishing camp or a lodge. They didn't have one listed to give them. That's unacceptable. If we're going to promote and support the tourism industry in New Orleans, they're going to realize there's things outside of New Orleans and work with us to help get those people out of the convention hall, out into the bayous and lakes and along the coast to enjoy what we've enjoyed our whole life. Not only will it benefit many of the people that make their livelihood in this industry, but it'll make people want to come back. How many times can you get drunk on Bourbon Street? So we've got to do a better job at pushing out. Okay, I know. That was the wrong question. But we've got to do more. You know, Bert Jones fishes down in Plaquemines Parish, and he said, you know, Billy, I go to Florida, and they got this thing, Fish Florida, and I meet people from Australia and foreign countries there to fish every lake and stream in Florida. And we're going to do that in Louisiana because you can fish anywhere, but you catch fish in Louisiana. I used to say Plaquemines Parish, but had to change that a little bit. I want to save a little bit of time because I truly want to take a few questions and comments because that's what helps me do the best I can for Louisiana. I won this job, but it's a job I want to do for all of you. And I will be embedded in the coastal restoration team to make sure we get the most bang for our buck and do the right thing with the money coming down from BP. And it's going to be a challenge because as we know, there's going to be attempts to do everything with that money but coastal restoration. And if we do the right thing, we can save or get a big jump on saving our coastline. It's going to be a lot of money. But to give you one example of how we haven't gone in the right direction thus far, we go out and do a coastal project, $7 million, $1.5 million mob, $1.5 million demob. We go back 6 months later, about 3 football fields from that location, and do the same thing, $1.5 million mob, $1.5 million demob. If we leased a dredge for 5 years, we would cut coastal restoration in half. Now, when I told the governor that some years ago, and Garrett Graves, they laughed at me. Well, we finally talked him into doing a study, and I hate that word, but it said we would save at least 50%. So why are we doing 3-month projects when our state plan and the funding that's coming, we could put a plan together and save our coast in our lifetime. Now, there's other challenges. Washington, D.C., and we all know the issues up there. But I am a new member of the Republican Lieutenant Governors Association. And I remember many years ago, my father joined the Republican Governors Association, paid about $10,000 a year. I'm like, Dad, what are you doing in this group? He said, son, when we send people to Washington, they lose sight of why they're there. The only way we're going to change this country is to elect enough good Republican governors and get enough of them to make their senators and congressmen do the right thing. Well, a year before Katrina, he got out. And I said, well, Dad, why aren't you involved anymore? He said, son, all we're doing is electing governors that want to run for president. Wish he was here today to see that. But there's 32 Republican lieutenant governors, and I'll be speaking to them in March in Washington. And although it's a great group of people, they've had no clear direction in changing our country. But 32 Republican lieutenant governors, that's 64 senators. We can get anything done. Because if the senators don't introduce the legislation that we want to save our coast, to save our fisheries, well, the one thing they fear is who might run against them and not get reelected. So don't give up on our dreams of saving the coast, because I won't if you won't, and we can save Louisiana together. Thank you and God bless you.
I've been a lifetime member of CCA since I can remember, and this group is so passionate and important to protecting the fishing we have here in Louisiana. You know, I like to say you can fish anywhere, but you catch fish in Louisiana. And it's so important for us to stay engaged and for me to hear from the fishermen, the conservationists, to make sure I'm doing all I can do to protect fishing, protect the coastline, the habitat, the marshlands where it all begins. So I'm glad to be here today. It's a great opportunity to interact with the people that are out there on the coast doing the fishing, and we can talk about the issues important to the industry.
How does the growth of the fishing industry work with growing tourism in Louisiana?
It's enormous. When we rebuilt Port Eves, everybody said, well, nobody's going to go there. Well, the marina is filled every year, and I was out there last year, and a guy from Australia was fishing with a boat, and I'm like, you've got to have a pretty easy schedule to come from Australia to fish in Louisiana. He said, it's really quite cheap. With my boat and my fishing buddies, the expensive part is my wife stays in a hotel in New Orleans and she shops for 3 months. So the effect of people coming to Louisiana to fish offshore or Toledo Bend or in the many lakes and rivers around the state has a huge economic impact for all of Louisiana, and we hope to grow that industry and promote that under tourism worldwide.
What kind of a partner has CCA been for the state of Louisiana?
They've been a great partner. As we fought during that oil spill together as a team, they were there side by side, day in and day out, making sure we held the officials, the federal government's feet to the fire to doing the right thing and helping us clean up and protect our coast. And I couldn't have done it without them. They were that important on a daily basis. Besides, many people in this room today, in their own personal boats, went out and rescued those birds, went out and looked for dolphins that were affected on their own time with their own money to help save the coast. So that shows you the passion and love they have for coastal Louisiana, and we wouldn't have done it without them.
Good morning, and thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today, and I know on such a beautiful Saturday morning, a lot of you probably wish you were fishing or hunting or something. And the old American cowboy, Will Rogers, said that if all politicians fished instead of spoke publicly, we'd be at peace with the world. Probably true, but at least I'm speaking publicly today partially about fishing. So maybe there's some bright spots in there as well. As you were just told, I am an avid outdoorsman. It's the way that I was raised by my father, and I had 6 brothers. And we engaged in an awful lot of outdoor activities, and I really felt blessed all of my life. I didn't wait till this point in my life to realize what a gift we had been given to grow up in Tangipahoa Parish, Louisiana, and the northern part of that parish in the Piney Wood Hills, but we could get in a canoe or whatever kind of boat we wanted, get in Big Creek, go into the Tangipahoa River, and get all the way down to our camp on North Pass in Manchac, just off of Lake Pontchartrain. And we did that every year as a family, hunting and fishing along the way. We got lucky sometimes, and when we didn't, we had plenty of stuff left over from Thanksgiving or Christmas. We weren't going to starve, but it was around those campfires, on those cold nights on that river, that our family really had our best experiences. And that's the sort of thing that you all enjoy. And that's really one of the things that makes us unique and special in our country. And it is a heritage that we enjoy, that one of our most sacred obligations is to make sure that future generations have the ability to enjoy that also. And I know that's what you all are about, and that's why I'm pleased to be with you here today. And I'll tell you, I have a little mixed emotion because my 14-year-old son is out on the last squirrel hunt of the year. And he's on land that I bought on the Tangipahoa River because of how much I enjoyed my time there with my family. And I lined up the best dogs in Tangipahoa Parish. And I know that he's having a successful hunt, and I wish I could be there with him, but this is important. And I asked the folks at the mansion, I don't think they've ever served squirrel stew, but we're going to do that. And I gave them the John Fo's cookbook on wild game, and I know there's got to be a squirrel recipe in there somewhere. But I want to just spend a few minutes talking to you about how important it is that we protect our natural resources here in Louisiana, the place that we know is truly the sportsman's paradise. And I know we like to say that, but we say it because it's true. We know it, we enjoy it, but it also allows us to entice people from around the country, and indeed from around the world, to come to Louisiana to enjoy what we have to offer. And again, I think it's our obligation to make sure that every generation that comes behind us have these same opportunities. And as governor, I'm committed to ensuring that both recreational and commercial fishing are safeguarded and accessible for all Louisianans. It's all about responsible stewardship of our natural resources, of the bounty that God gave us. And you really don't have to look further than the book of Genesis to know that we have an obligation there that we can work on together. And you know how much this means to our state. On the commercial side, Louisiana is the nation's #1 provider of shrimp, oysters, crabs, crawfish, and alligator. And we're a pretty close second on fish. Over 70% of the seafood production in the Gulf comes from nearly 13,000 Louisiana commercial fishermen each year. The seafood industry as a whole has an annual economic impact for our state of over $2.4 billion. Now, I will tell you, I know what $2 billion means. That is a big impact on the state of Louisiana. Now, and our commercial fishermen take immense pride in the work that they do, and certainly it's very important for the state of Louisiana. But the recreational fishing industry, too, has a tremendous positive impact. And I know that's the side of the coin that you all are on. And when it comes to our economy, the boats that you buy, the motors, everything that you do, the camps that you purchase, and the investments that you make have a tremendous positive impact on our economy, and also helps us to make sure that we are truly the sportsman's paradise. So I want to thank you for what you do, and I pledge to you, as your governor, to work to strike the right balance between the competing interests that we have, and sometimes there are competing interests, as you know, between recreational and commercial fishermen. But we all have a stake in the outcome, and so we all need to sit down and work together to find where that common ground is and make sure that we can manage those competing interests responsibly. Now, you're gathering here in Baton Rouge, in the state's capital, while the legislature is in session, a special session that I called to fix the budget crisis. And so I just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about that as well. The fact of the matter is, Louisiana is presently facing the largest budget deficit in our history. Between now and June 30th, we are $940 million short from being in balance. And for the year that starts July 1st, we're $2 billion short from being in balance. Now, I wish that I came into the office of governor with $1 billion surplus. Didn't happen. But you have to take ownership of the situation as you find it and be resolved to fix it. And so that's what we're trying to do. And I believe when you have budget holes this big, the only responsible approach is a balanced approach that consists of both strategic revenue cuts and strategic revenue enhancements. And we are doing the budget cuts as well. And we've started seeing some movement in the House of Representatives this week. I just want you all to know that while it was a good start, it came a few days later than it should have. In and of itself, what happened this week is not enough. If that's all we do, there will be very drastic, and some would say catastrophic, cuts to vital services in the state of Louisiana as it relates across the board to things like higher education, our community and technical colleges, our universities, healthcare, both with respect to the ability to have these MCOs continue to manage our Medicaid program, but also to have private partners in our safety net hospitals, the old LSU charity hospitals that we privatized. You know, all of those things take resources. Our Department of Corrections runs on state general fund dollars. Our ability to house inmates is threatened. Now, I happen to believe that the consequences of failure are so stark and so grave that we're not going to go there, that we're going to come together and fix this problem, stabilize the situation in Louisiana, and then put ourselves on a path towards a better future, a more prosperous future. But we've got to stabilize the situation in Louisiana first, and we don't have long. And the reason I say that, this is an even-numbered year, and we cannot, by the Constitution, do revenue measures in the regular session that starts next month. Whatever additional revenue we're going to come up with, we've got to come up with it now, not just to fix the hole in the present year, but also to make sure we have the revenue to responsibly budget for next year. And so I need people focused on both the short term and on next year as well. And again, I'm optimistic that we're going to get there. I am spending hours upon hours meeting with legislators in the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats alike, to find that common ground that I was just talking about, that there has to be between you and the commercial industry. There also has to be common ground on things like the budget and the future of our great state. And what I'm asking people to do is to let's be Louisianans first and foremost right now. Let's get back to being Republicans and Democrats a little later on down the road before we all run for re-election. But we've got to come together as Louisianans to fix this problem. And I know that we're going to be successful. Because while there are certainly some trends that are where I think we're going in the wrong direction in Baton Rouge, we are not Washington, D.C. yet. We still have the ability to sit down and talk to one another. And we are doing that every day. And I just wanted you to know that, so that you, like me, can be optimistic about our future. And I want you to share my excitement about the future of Louisiana. I still think our best days are ahead. I am very bullish on our future. But I also want you to share with me the resolve to fix these problems. Because if we don't, this state is not going to be the state that we all want it to be for our children and our grandchildren. There are many reasons why I ran for governor. Chief among them is the thought that if our children decide that they want to leave our state to pursue an education or get a good job or have a rewarding career, we should give them our blessings, send them on their way, and pray for their success. But if too many of our children believe they have to leave our state to get a good education, find a good job, or have a rewarding career, we are failing them. We are failing too many kids in our state today, and if we don't fix our problems, we're going to fail far too many of them in our future. We don't in Louisiana have a margin of error that will allow for that. So we have to come together and fix our problems. And the challenge is not an easy one. You know, I understand that when you propose budget cuts and revenue increases, you don't really make anybody happy. Everybody has reasons to be upset with what I'm proposing. But what I can assure you is, if we don't do these things, people are going to be far more upset in the future about the situation that we are going to have in Louisiana. And so while it's very difficult, I believe it's the right approach for Louisiana. And if we will do this, we are going to have a much better future. And I want to transition now into the role of the wildlife and fisheries, because I know you're about to hear from my good friend, our Secretary of Wildlife and Fisheries, Charlie Melanson, in just a minute, and I'm going to introduce him. I've been pretty busy over the first 6 weeks in office, but I am very thankful for the people who've chosen to answer the call and join my administration to serve the people of Louisiana. We have a very good team of competent, committed public servants, and we have a team that actually looks like the state of Louisiana. And I'm not prouder of any selection that I've made than I am of Charlie Melanson. And the reason it's important is we have one of the finest wildlife and fisheries departments in the nation. And they are tasked with utilizing science, the best science, to preserve our state's unique hunting and fishing culture. And we must have the autonomy, or they must have the autonomy, to undertake that task. But you also have to have the right leadership too. So I chose a leader for that department who I knew would advance conservation and sound management of fisheries and wildlife, while also following the science that should drive their decision making. And I also picked someone who had proven that he was a very good public servant, somebody that I know loves the state of Louisiana, and like me believes that one of the best things that we have going for us are the wildlife and fisheries opportunities that really make us the sportsman's paradise. So with that, I'm going to introduce Charlie, who, as you all may know, is a native of Napoleonville, and he served in the House from 2006 to 2011. And he was a leader in the House of Representatives and served on the Energy and Commerce and Natural Resources, Agriculture, Science, and Budget committees. I mean, this man is very well qualified to be the secretary. He played a major role in coordinating the private and intergovernmental responses after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. And prior to going to Congress, Charlie was president and general manager of the American Sugarcane League of the United States of America. And before all of that, he was a state representative from District 60 from 1987 to 1993. So Charlie and his wife, Peachy, reside in Baton Rouge. They have 2 adult children, and I am looking forward to serving with Charlie as together we work on your behalf and on behalf of everybody in the state of Louisiana to safeguard what we all know to be one of the greatest blessings God has bestowed on us. And so with that, I would ask my secretary, our secretary, and my friend, Charlie Melanson, to come up and give you all a talk. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
As the governor noted, we probably have the best Department of Wildlife and Fisheries in this entire United States. If we're not number one, we're damn well close to being number one. And if I have anything to do with it before I finish my term, whatever term it is that the governor decides I'll have, I will make sure that we get to number one if we're not there already. Let me start by saying, and I've got a few people here, if y'all stand, I've got Cole Garrett, who does legislative stuff for the department. I've got the new Assistant Secretary of Fisheries. My mind just went blank, okay. Patrick Banks, sorry. Toby Gascon, who is a special assistant to me. In the room, Randy Paulsina. Are you still in the room with us? Randy, I want to say thank you for the job that you've done for the last 8 years. You've set a benchmark that is high. You've set a benchmark that is high, and that we as a team, you included, are going to continue to work to try and make sure that Louisiana leads in all aspects, especially in the fisheries. For those of you that are concerned because there's a new sheriff in town, let me put your mind at ease. We are not changing the department. We're not changing the strategies. We're not changing anything. We're going forward, marching to the same drummer. There may be some different approaches, but from the same part of where we're going, where we're headed, what we've done, what we're gonna do, I don't think you're gonna find much changing. Maybe you'll find us working harder, if that's possible. And I say that only in a generic sense because this department works hard. They work hard for the people of the state of Louisiana. That's who we serve. That's who I, as a public servant, serves. Let me give you a little bit of background about myself for those that you don't know me. I grew up in Napoleonville, so the governor and I come from both big towns. I think his town might be a little bit bigger than mine. Although I think he now admits to being from Roseland, so actually Napoleonville may be bigger than Roseland. I grew up, my father was a workaholic. I'd see him going out the door at 5:30 in the morning. He'd come back in at 6 o'clock at night. He didn't hunt and fish, but he had a friend, very close friend, who was a business associate of his, named Sonny Tebow. Some of you might be familiar with the Tebow name. Those at Grand Isle, I think that the kids just sold the camp down there. He and his father before him, Bronier Tebow, were the people that taught me to hunt and to fish and to enjoy the outdoors. Spent many a days on Grand Isle with Sonny Tebow as a kid, many a days in the dove field and a deer blind, and any other place that Sonny Tebow would take me to recreate and enjoy the outdoors. I finally challenged, I guess I was about 12 or 13 years old, when I challenged my dad to go shoot some doves, because I thought I'd gotten pretty good at shooting doves. I had a .410 at the time, and I thought I was a pretty good shot. And he borrowed a gun, because he didn't own a shotgun, and took me out in the field behind Glenwood Sugar Co-op, and he outshot me. In about the first 15 minutes, he had his limit. He says, well, let's go. And, you know, of course, you want to say that's luck. Found out later, Sonny had taken him and helped him brush up on his shooting. He had shot it when he was a kid and when he was in the military, but it just wasn't anything that he normally did. So I'm thankful to my dad for his friend and his friend's father that really gave me those opportunities to enjoy the outdoors and to be part of it. Kel McGinnis is here also. Kel's with the foundation, and I won't be remiss if I didn't recognize him. Kel and I have been friends for, I'm not going to say decades because that kind of ages us, but we have been friends for decades. Anyway, my background after, as being a congressman, I was in the State House for 6 years. I was in the Congress for 3 terms, 6 years. My duty, I guess you might say, or what I ended up becoming proficient at was disaster recovery. We had Katrina, Rita, Gustav, Ike, and then the BP oil spill. And my district was the front district on the Gulf of Mexico. So you can understand why I may have not authored many pieces of legislation, but I can tell you there was many pieces of legislation, had one-liners in there, either for funding recovery or for fixing problems that came because of all those conditions or situations. So it was a challenging time. I used to tell the people when they'd say, why are we doing so much to recover in the marshes and New Orleans and St. Bernard and Plaquemines, and I'd tell my friends from other parts of the country, you know that place they call the Everglades, that's so wild? And they'd say, yeah. I said, well, the South Louisiana marshes make the Everglades of Florida look like a petting zoo comparatively. And they just look at me kind of dumbfounded, and I didn't have to explain it, but I did. What we have in the Louisiana marshes is a treasure that we need to protect. And let me just tell you one thing that I think you will find to be good news. For those of you that don't know Johnny Bradbury, who is now the head of CIPRA, we have found, I think, or let me just say, the governor has found, I think, the best person that I could partner with from wildlife and fisheries standpoint to try and make sure that whatever we do to save the wetlands and the marshes of South Louisiana, that we don't do it to the detriment of the species that live and the people that recreate and make a living in the South Louisiana marshes. Johnny grew up on Grand Isle. He understands what's down there. He understands everything from the fisheries whether it's commercial or recreation or otherwise, if there is such a thing as otherwise. He understands it, and he wants to do it right, and I want to do it right, and he and I have had several conversations, and we are going to work together as a team. Wildlife and Fisheries will be part of the process rather than just asked to come to the table and vote yes or no. So hopefully, when it's all said and done, one of the two legacies I hope to leave is, one, a department that is as good as or better than what I found it, and a South Louisiana coastal area that is recovered with the fisheries still intact, and Louisiana that I know and have enjoyed for my 60-plus years. And I won't go past the 60-plus because that really starts showing my age. Right, Cal? Okay. Let me just say that I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the people that are at the department. I'm here to work with you. As I told the Senate committee the other day when we gave them the list of cell phone numbers for the people in the department in case they needed us, that was a 7-day-a-week, 24 hours a day, if they needed us to call us. And we are available because we are here to serve the public, and that includes you. So with that, I think there was supposed to be some questions and answers. Or the message is that we will continue going forward with CCA and working with them for the betterment of the resources, and particularly in the fisheries.
What kind of a partner has CCA been over the years, and what do you anticipate moving forward?
Excellent partners, and I'm looking forward to that relationship continuing going into the future.
Tell us about the key vital role of conservation with Louisiana's resources.
Well, you know, we all have a part to play in preserving the resources. CCA obviously is a conservation group. The mission of the department is conservation and preservation, so it ties right in. It's the good part is we've got relationships in some areas where they're helping us get things done quickly that we would have to go through bureaucratic processes to get done. So it's been a good working partnership.
I'm happy to be with the Coastal Conservation Association and talk to them about this tremendous obligation we have as Louisianans to preserve this legacy. You know, God has blessed us with tremendous natural resources and the bounty that we enjoy in terms of wildlife, fisheries, and it's one of the unique and really beautiful things about our state, and we have an obligation to make sure that future generations continue to enjoy this bounty as well, and so we need to be wise stewards of those resources. I know that's what they're all about, and so I'm happy to be here talking to them this morning. A little less happy to talk to them about the budget situation, though.
The 2015 Albert Bankston Volunteer of the Year Award. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the 2016 Albert Bankston Volunteer of the Year Award. The award is given in honor of Mr. Albert Bankston. Many of you know, a giant of conservation in Louisiana, an original member of CCA, and a 2011 CCA Louisiana Hall of Fame inductee. Recent recipients of the award include Mr. Camp Matins, Mr. Roy DeVere, Mr. George Huey, Mr. Joey Russo, Mr. John Walther, and others. I don't mean to leave anybody out, but there are too many to list. There are many in this room who are worthy and were considered for all your many contributions. You are critical to our success and true leaders for the cause of conservation. Today's recipient, in the truest sense, represents all of you. The 2016 Volunteer of the Year truly is a wonderful person and friend. Quiet and unassuming, this is a member who epitomizes everything that makes CCA what it is, a true volunteer-driven grassroots organization. Here is a short snapshot of some of the work this volunteer did on CCA's behalf. We're not going to tell you who it is yet. You'll maybe get to figure it out shortly. This member often attends Gulf Council meetings and public comment sessions to represent CCA whenever asked. This member worked the CCA booth at the NOLA Boat Show last year and will again this year. Maybe just doesn't know it yet. This member has captained countless fishing trips for CCA in the last couple of years. This member worked CCA Day at the Southern Sportsman's Festival and Expo. This member is a constant presence at events for nearby chapters, often taking a very active role. This member helped the Plaquemine CCA chapter with the Myrtle Grove Kids Rodeo. This member helped the River Parishes CCA with the CCA Green Wing Day in Norco, worked with the fish identification booth, and helped mentor more than 400 kids. This member took over as chapter president last year and helped his chapter throw the biggest banquet in their history. This member coordinated CCA involvement in the Archbishop Shaw Fishing Rodeo in Lafitte. This member spoke to kids at the St. Matthew, Louisiana Heritage Day, organized and worked the CCA booth at the Melot Crawfish Cook-Off in Gretna. This member served as the weighmaster for the Douglas Drennan Memorial Fishing Rodeo last year. And this member helped with the derelict crab trap removal program last weekend, and though it is rumored that his wife picked up more crab traps than he did, his wife Nikki. On a personal note, I love this guy and his wife Nikki. They have become close friends to me, and I know to Lee over the last couple of years. They're great fishermen, a blast to fish with. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask you to help me honor the 2016 Albert Bankston Volunteer of the Year from the West Bank chapter, my friend Mr. Maurice Dacan. Maurice, come on up here.
Guys, this award is wonderful. I appreciate everything, but it's mentors that were before me that made this possible. Mac Danos, our ex-president, that taught me how to be a good president. You know, my mom and dad. You know, it's people that help you and teach you how to support others that makes it all so wonderful. And it's not a job. It's not even a loss of time. Every time spent with the CCA is a blessing, and it's a gift. And we really do appreciate everything everybody does for us, and look forward to working for y'all for the rest of my life. Thank y'all very much.
And we're here to unveil the Foster Broussard Award and introduce you to the first ever recipient. This award was created earlier this year to honor the legacy of two great guys and dedicated CCA members. Scott Foster from Acadiana and Al Broussard from Sugar. If you don't remember these guys' names, perhaps you will recognize them in the photos on the screen. Both were taken from us unexpectedly in 2015. Scott after an extended illness, and Al in a tragic traffic accident. Both Scott and Al were the consummate CCA volunteers, always willing to step up when needed, often doing the jobs that nobody wanted, yet never seeking any special title or recognition. Neither was interested in climbing the ranks, only doing what was necessary to further CCA's good work. In fact, they'd both probably be mad that we are making such a fuss with this award. I can assure you not a day goes by that we don't miss our friends, and we dedicate much of our efforts at the chapter level to these members.
The Foster Broussard Award was created to honor Scott and Al, but also to recognize the volunteers like them who get the job done, at the chapter level. And like Corey said, without the accolades or fanfare. These guys were the ground troops for every banquet that we had, every state convention. I know with Scott, he was there. The first one there to set up and the last one there when we left. Think about that. I do. A trash can to be emptied, ice chest to be dumped out. Scott was there. The same thing with Alwyn at the conventions. You never heard from him, but the jobs always got done. And it's a fitting award, the Foster Broussard Award is. because we are a volunteer-driven organization. When we discussed the recipients, the possible recipients of this award, obviously it was a very overwhelming task. Truly, there are many, many deserving recipients. So we didn't try. We knew that these two guys were going to be it. Just to know how much your efforts mean at the chapter level and how deeply they're appreciated by those of us who happen to serve as presidents and vice presidents and leaders, know that we can't do this without you. The recipient of this year's award, however, comes from one of our largest chapters, a chapter who has seen a bit of a fundraising dip in the previous year. This volunteer did not carry any special title into 2015. He simply showed up, like Scott now, at the meetings. He took the bull by the horns, and as a result, led a charge which was responsible for $100,000 in additional fundraising for CCA. The largest feat ever in a single year. The largest feat ever in the history of CCA. In fact, they hold the record and have set the bar for Sugar and Ascension and everyone else to try to meet.
Volunteers like this are the fabric of this organization, just like Scott now. So in honor of our dear friends, we'd like to present the 2016 Foster Broussard Award to a very deserving volunteer from the Lake Charles chapter, Mr. Kyle Williams.
Unfortunately, Kyle had a last-minute conflict arise, and he's unable to be with us today. So in his absence and in his honor, we will call on Bob Bush to accept the award.
When I moved to Lake Charles, I became involved in the Lake Charles chapter, and it is an incredible group of people. A lot of young guys who really get it, understand what CCA is about. But I'll tell you, Kyle, this last year, drove that team to an incredible banquet. And he was the catalyst behind every meeting. He was there saying, this is what we need to do. We need to sell these tables. We need to get these auction items. I mean, he was the driving force behind that banquet. And I am honored to accept this for him today and appreciate what he did for CCA and for the Lake Charles chapter.
This is a real honor for me to do this. My dear friend, Robert Barham, I have the pleasure today to introduce him with the special CCA Louisiana Board of Directors Award. This is a very rare honor given by CCA and recognizes individuals whose service to the state of Louisiana is so extraordinary that only this will come close to sufficing. Robert was a great champion of outdoorsmen and outdoors women and conservation during his time in the state Senate. Most recently, as most of you know, he served under Governor Jindal as the Secretary of the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. In that role, he was recognized by his peers and by stakeholder groups from all sectors as a visionary leader and an outstanding and outspoken guardian of Louisiana's fish and wildlife resources. An entire account of his accomplishments would take too long to list, but just to name a few. Under Robert's leadership, the Louisiana Artificial Reef Program saw its most prolific period ever, creating 18 inshore artificial reefs and dozens of offshore reef sites formed when oil and gas platforms are repurposed through our state's Rig to Reef program. His team created the Louisiana Cooperative Marine Fish Tagging Program, which is one of the largest and most comprehensive fish tagging programs in the United States of America. His department created the La Creel program, the most extensive and effective fisheries data collection program in this country, which is now being modeled by several other states and is widely recognized as far superior to the federal data collection methods. Robert led the charge for Louisiana to recognize state fishing waters after 10 miles, a bold step that has led to increased opportunity for all of our fishermen in Louisiana, and also for the federal fisheries managers to closely consider their own methods. He was an outspoken advocate for the state management of red snapper and other federally managed species, having testified to Congress numerous times. He was the voice of Louisiana's fish and wildlife during the aftermath of the Gulf oil spill in 1910, overseeing every aspect of monitoring and ongoing recovery of our coastal wildlife resources, a job he has been roundly lauded for. At a time when Louisiana is found at the bottom of most, if not many, lists, we can be proud of the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. It is an opinion of many, including me personally, one of the best in this country. That is in large part due to the leadership of Robert Barham over the past 8 years. So Robert, my friend, on behalf of the 20,000 CCA members across the state, it is a great pleasure that I present you with this very special board of directors from CCA in recognition of your extraordinary service, your visionary leadership in conserving our precious coastal resources. Your tireless efforts have advanced the principles of this organization and been of great benefit to Louisiana's fish and our anglers alike. Fellow members, will you please help me thank a truly great Louisianan, Mr. Robert Barham.
My boss, Billy Nungesser, pointed out you can claim now that you are a real conservative because I've got on the same tie as I had in the picture. So, folks, thank you so much. I'm so honored, and the Hall of Famer introducing me. What a tremendous honor to be with you today. My name is on this, but it shouldn't be my name. It's only there because I'm representing the people that I had on my team. Certainly at least half of this award goes to the best assistant secretary anyone could ever have, Randy Paulsino. With great brains and biological knowledge, you need a troublemaker. So I'll claim that part of the equation. We had great success at Wildlife and Fisheries, and I say to each of you, don't let us lose the ground we gained. And a lot of that is going to be up to you. Jeff knows we rocked the Fed's world, and we had them on their heels, and it was the right thing to do. We can do a much better job of managing our fisheries than they can. And to keep from rolling back the progress we gained, you have the power to pick up that phone, call your state legislators and your federal representatives and let them know how powerful CC really is. You have honored me today. I have treasured the time that we've worked together, and I look forward to other good days. Thank you so much. Fishing is so huge in Louisiana. It's a participant sport of the first order in Louisiana. It's just what everyone does. We sell thousands and thousands of licenses, and it's the lifeblood of Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and it's just part of the culture of Louisiana.
We are a fisheries management advocacy group. We advocate for effective fisheries management at every level, at the local, state, and national level. We want to make sure that lawmakers consider the effects on our coastal resources when they make any decision about the law. So our members work with local government, state government, and even national government officials to ensure that the fisheries are always considered. There's a number of other ways that we are involved with the conservation of our coast. Of course, we've got an incredible habitat program where we've built 20 reefs across the coast here in Louisiana, inshore reefs anywhere from 6 to 15 feet of water, where create great habitat for speckled trout, redfish, and all the fish that we love to catch. Of course, we're out in the community every day doing our outreach programs, reaching out to young people, trying to teach them about the ethic of conservation that it will take in order for Louisiana's coast to succeed long into the future.
The value in the case of my family goes very deep, where we start our grandchildren out at a very young age, getting them on boats and teaching them how to fish and the fun of fishing. I really think that the true value is the camaraderie and the relationships you build, as it is in every aspect of life.
The membership is it's a cheap thing, number one. You can join for a relatively small amount of money. And for that, you get to be part of the best conservation association in the state. So for a value standpoint, there's nothing close to what you get. As far as the membership itself, you can become as involved as you want on a local chapter basis and also involved in the state. We have representatives from all over the state that serve on our board and also in executive positions throughout the organization.
We're the voice of the fish, and that we go out and we fight for the make sure that laws and regulations are in favor of fish habitat and the proliferation of fish species. That we're here, and we're here 365, 24/7 to make sure that we protect the fish species.
And contact the CCA office in Baton Rouge or go on our website, CCA Louisiana. There are membership opportunities there, some really good information about what we're doing. So I encourage anyone who doesn't know about CCA to give us a look and see if there's an opportunity for you to be in this organization.
I'm always so pleased anytime I see a group of CCA volunteers come together. We're expecting a great crowd this weekend. We've had great effort by our staff and our volunteers to get to the point where we find ourselves today, and with any luck and some good weather, we're going to have a great weekend ahead.
If people have questions like more information about CCA, what should they do?
Yeah, real simple. You can call us at our office at 225-952-9200. You can go to our website at ccalouisiana.com. You can find any information you want about membership, how to get involved, or just more information about the organization in general. So give us a call, go to the website, and you won't be sorry.